So we're going to talk about mobility matters, and we're talking about sustainable mobility. And I have been lucky to have been in many cities along the Netherlands, and I've seen some of the cycling, which is quite nice, in the summer, in the winter, in all the time, so, and making it nice. And people from all over the world actually come here and learn about some of the things that the transformations on creating cities for people. It's very important that you realize that you're doing a lot of good things. But however, this is a process that you're never finished. What are the best cities in the world from the point of view of climate change, of resilience, of parks, of mobility, of everything? And then benchmark yourself against the best ones in everything. We need you to move from very, very good to great. Because as you move, you're pushing the world to be a little bit better. Everybody's watching. What you do from the point of view of mobility, when you do it from the point of view of public places. It's not only what you do with politics. You know, a few weeks ago, you are a tiny country from the point of view of size and even population. But a few weeks ago, the whole world was watching your elections. Everybody wanted to know what was going to happen. You have that power of influence. You have that power of credibility. So maybe the same thing with mobility and with how we create cities. Change is hard in Rotterdam or in Amsterdam or in Utrecht. Change is hard everywhere. Because when you try to change, the cave people show up. Who are the cave people? The citizens against virtually everything. But then, I remember that the citizens are paying us every other week is to get things done, not to have 20 excuses why things cannot be done. So each one of us has to become a champion at finding solutions to the problems, not at finding problems to the solutions. Imagine, for example, on Sunday of the marathon, what if you're already closing the streets 42 kilometers for 5 hours? What if you open it 3 hours before or close it 3 hours later and allow regular citizens, little kids on their tricycles and older adults on their bikes, or people just to walk or skate or run and use those 42 kilometers? All of the expense to decide the route and this is already done. What's the risk? You are not building arenas, you're not building gymnasiums, you're not building community centers. You're using the streets. If it doesn't work, okay, the next year you don't do it. So there is no risk. I suggest be very proactive about trying things. And not only here, you can do this in any city. And it opens minds. But everywhere I go, people say, Gil, what's that 880 cities? Well, 880 cities is not about streets or parks or walking or cycling or public transit. Those are the means. Those are not the ends. The end is how can we contribute to have some successful cities? That's the idea, having successful cities where we're going to have happy communities. But you don't need to be a transportation engineer to decide if a cycle track is good or bad, if an intersection is good or bad. We said it's the 880 rule of common sense. Unfortunately, common sense seems to be the least common of the senses. 3 steps. Step number 1, think of an 8-year-old that you love. Your son, your daughter, your nephew, your neighbors. Once you have this child, step number 2, think of an 80-year-old that you love. Your parents, your grandparents, brothers, sisters. And once you have the 8 and the 80, step number 3, would you send them across that intersection? Would you send them walking to get eggs or milk? Would you send them on a bicycle and that cycle track across the city? Would they feel safe? If you would, it's because he's safe enough. If you would not, it's because he's not. And we got to do it better. What if everything that we're in Rotterdam and in every city in the Netherlands, everything, the pavement, the crosswalk, the intersection, the school, the library, the hospital, the building, everything had to be good for an 8 and an 80. Because if it's good for the 8 and the 80 is going to be good for everybody from 0 to over 100, we got to stop building cities as if everybody was 30-year-old and athletic. And build great cities for all. That is the concept of 880 cities. It's simple, but it's powerful. But we got to move forward because there's a perfect storm in so many ways. We got traffic congestion, and it's going to get worse. As people get wealthier and as more people come to the city, we're having big issues about climate change, and we're seeing the results everywhere, the symptoms. We got a public health crisis, both mental, physical, emotional. We got an economic crisis. We got the population growth. Within the lifetime of our children, we're going to increase the population living in cities by 3.5 billion. And also challenge, we're living longer. 1 out of 4 people are going to be over 65. And over 80 is going to triple in the next 33 years. We have learned how to survive. But when there are all of these challenges, it's very clear that now we must learn how to live. So a conference like this one on Mobility Matters is not just how to go from point A to point B. It's about learning how to live. I don't see any cars here. I don't see any buses or even bicycles. Everybody walked. That's why walking is so important. Every single trip begins and ends by walking. We walk to the car. We walk to the bicycle. We walk to places. We walk to public transit. Walking is absolutely critical. And also, we ride bicycles. It's everybody, the little kid when they're learning how to balance, or the older adult on their trike. We back in the sun, we back in the rain. We gotta make it nice, walking, cycling, also new uses of cars. I'm not saying that this is the end of the car industry, but the way we use cars is changing very, very fast. The old thinking was that if there was not enough space for cars and transit, then you would have only cars. But of course, the new thinking is that if there is not enough space for cars and transit, then it's only transit. And now people are talking about driverless cars. Well, if we don't change how we live, if we don't change our behavior, this is what cities look like today without driverless cars. And this is how they're going to look like when we have driverless cars. There's not going to be any change. Actually, we might even have more cars. Many older adults are not driving anymore. But if the car is not going to be driverless, they are going to continue driving. So we really need to change our behavior, and we're going to need to work on strengthening the walkability, the bikeability, the public transit, and making it effective. We got to improve. How do we improve walking? Well, first, we got to make it a priority. And it's not that we don't know how to do it. We know how to do it. And you know, in New York, they started doing it, and they are transforming. So there are many cities here in the Netherlands that you are doing it, but we got to make it safe. Every year, we got over 5 million people are walking, are injured. Over 270,000 are killed. That's more than 1 every 2 minutes, 24 hours a day. They are not accidents. They are incidents because they could have been avoided. So we got to improve. Clearly, we got to have 30K everywhere. Not because it sounds nice, but because if you get hit by a car at 30, 5% probability of being killed. If you get hit at 50, more than 85% probability. By the way, I've seen here in Rotterdam some of the streets that are 30, which is great, but making all of them, except the arterials. The arterials can be 50, 60, but as soon as you go from an arterial into a residential street, it should go down to 30, because then it's a lot easier to obey and a lot easier to implement. Walking and cycling is not a frivolity. Walking and cycling is not a joke. Walking and cycling is the only individual mode of mobility for most people. Walking and cycling is the only individual mode of mobility for all children and youth around the world. So walking and cycling should be like a human right, the right to safe and enjoyable mobility. So we got to keep moving, and also we got to improve public transit. One of my brothers is mayor of Bogota, and he says that the civilized city is not where the poor have cars, but it's where the rich use public transit. That's why all of this matters. Why is it that mobility matters? Why do we need to promote walking and cycling and new uses of cars and public transit? Let's focus on the benefits. So I want to end by taking you through some of the benefits, because we're going to have cleaner air. Also, we're going to improve economic development. Whatever we have walking, people that walk and bike, they buy more often. They also buy more local. They also, it's going to be healthier. We need people to be active. Active is so good for everything. And it's not about doing marathons. It's about just 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes a day for adults, 60 minutes a day for children. In a session that I was this morning in the health track, they said that over 75% of the children and more than 50% of the adults in the Netherlands are not doing the 30 minutes a day. Another benefit, in addition to health, is the personal income. Some people might say, I don't care about the environment, I don't care about the personal health, I don't care about what's in it for me. Well, what's in it for me is that so many people don't have money for paying for school, going on vacation, even having dinner with their family. What are they doing with the money? Well, they're investing in mobility. On mobility. So it's an issue of equity. People that have a car, on average, they spend 1 out of 4 euros on mobility, 25% of their income. So there is nothing that the government can do that would have a higher impact on the finance of a family than being able to downsize from 2 cars to 1 or from 1 to 0. And it's also going to be good for the community, because instead of spending money on a car built in China, you're going to spend that money here in the restaurants and fixing the garden and the house. All of this is about how we want to live. Sometimes we dream that this is how we want to live, and then we go out and build this. It's not being consistent. This is all of Florence, Italy, and one highway intersection in Atlanta. Because if we look at a city from the air, the biggest public space, public that belongs to all of us, the biggest public space are the streets. The streets are between 25 and 40% of the city. So it's clear on the what. So I'm going to end now on the how. I'm going to take you to 5 elements of change. One is the sense of urgency. We got to develop this should have been enough to develop a sense of urgency, all those issues that are happening. 2, we got to have political will. As part of the political will, I want each one of you to become a guardian angel of the gentle majority. When we evaluate any city of any size, anywhere, we should evaluate how well we treat the most vulnerable people, the children, the older adults, the poor. I'm going to talk now only about the children as an example. In Rotterdam, we got to have playability everywhere. And playing is so critical because playing is fun, but it's not only just fun and games. That's how children learn. Where children play, that's how they develop their muscle strength. That's how they develop their cognitive thinking, to learn languages, to be able to concentrate. They learn to socialize. They learn to develop friendships for life, to have a sense of belonging to their neighborhood, to the city. So we got to have, what if in Rotterdam and in every city we had as a goal that every children is going to have a park or a play area within 500 meters? We really need to invest in having really nice parks in the downtown. When you go to Copenhagen, there is not 2 parks alike. So you shouldn't be able to find any. But here, sometimes you don't even see the playgrounds. Most of the parks here are just a piece of lawn where people go and take a nap. It's very, very important to do something nice. Let's invest in the children so that they will actually want to go out. 3rd element, we got to have leadership. And leadership, I'm not only talking about these world leaders. So the community can do many things. This is a physical education teacher. She saw that each year fewer and fewer kids were walking to school. So she asked them, why don't you walk to school? Because they were afraid of the cars. So the children were home over the holidays, over Christmas. They came back, and she was dressed up as a pylon. She shut down the parking lot. And then she said initially the parents were really upset, but she said, good morning, good morning. The kids loved her. And at minus 20 degrees, the kids started to walk and to bike. It's about changing mindsets. We need to support that. I think we need hundreds of inventors because this is about hardware and software. It's about programs and about infrastructure. It's great. We need more of that citizen engagement. 4, we got to have doers. In New York, one of the things that I love is these 2 women. They transformed New York. People said nothing can happen in New York because of the mafias and the unions and the taxis and so on. Well, this woman transformed New York. They found places like this that was totally for cars. And now people are doing yoga and Tai Chi in Times Square. Who would have thought that Times Square was going to turn from an area for cars into an area for people? And people say, oh, cities don't change. Well, New York was changing. Melbourne really changed. Melbourne 20 years ago would not have been in the top 300 cities in the world. Now Melbourne is one of the top 5. The other thing that changed in Melbourne was the river. Here in Rotterdam, you have a magnificent river. And I think that the river here in Rotterdam could have the same or even higher impact. And the last element I want to mention is citizen engagement. We got to get the citizens engaged. Somebody just want to play, or somebody want to paint, or some people want to dance. People want to do all kinds of activities. Let's go and ask. When we are the citizens, they come out with great ideas. Everybody has to participate. It's about policy. It's about creating alliances with everybody, the elected officials, the councilors, the aldermen, but also at the national level. We got to get the public sector staff, but not only in planning or transportation. Get education and public health and tourism and economic development. And 3rd leg is like a 3-legged stool. The 3rd leg is the community, the activists, the universities, the business community. And how do you get these 3 legs working together? What is the glue? The glue is developing a sense of urgency and a shared vision of our city. And I know you are doing, but given all the crises and the issues that are happening, we got to do more, and we got to do it faster. And in many ways, mobility matters because mobility is about creating vibrant cities and healthy communities where all people are going to live happier. So I wish you much success. Thank you very much.